Content warning. Graphic violence. Majora's Mask. Book 5. Desolation. Chapter 58. The Waterway. The rain fell softly now. Bit by bit, the dismal storm had given way to the stars. They were done hiding behind the clouds, each speck finally brave enough to tear through night's curtain. Omniscient but proud, the stars had all the world's knowledge up there. And on the second night, after the storm, they always deemed Termina worthy of their wisdom again. Navi had told him that ancient tale.
"The great Deku tree says they are echoes of the goddesses,"
she'd said. She and Link had made camp on the riverbank leading up to Zora Domain. The wind was as cool and inviting now in Termina as it had been then.
"When they were done making the world, they went back to the heavens. But Nehru insisted they leave wisdom for us. There are some scholars in the Gerudo Desert who study stories in the stars. You can read the future, if you pay close enough attention."
Link had doubted her then, as he always did. But now, under Termina's night sky, he wondered if these stars held the same wisdom as Hyrule's. If the people running beneath them were shades of people from the past and present, then did the stars suffer the same fate? How could there be a sacred realm up there in a land of illusions? If knowledge is stored in the stars, the boy thought, I wish they'd take what I know tonight. I wasn't ready. I should have said no. Link's back was against the outward curve of the overturned hollowed log. Its surface was as wet as the grass, and he watched the now distant storm, black, flashing clouds sweeping toward Ikana Canyon, and allowed the heavy evening to wrap him in its warmth. My own golden moment, he thought. His damp bangs clung to his forehead, and his bag, sword, and shield remained in the log. Among other things, he thought darkly. A phantom instinct reached to pull his hat from his head, but his fingers only found air. He'd lost it so long ago and still had not grown used to its absence. Tattle rested on the ground beside him. Her bright white light warded off the worst of night's black void. She absently played with a wet blade of grass, consumed by thoughts of her own. Link drew his legs in closer as he finally broke the silence. I don't want to think about it anymore. His voice sounded strange to his ears. The memories had passed through him in an instant, but they were vicious, hungry things. Link had not just learned the masked salesman's life as if through a book. He'd experienced it. The grief and horror clung to him like the morning dew did to Termina Field. I felt it, Link continued. That feeling when he saw his mother's throat cut and his father stabbed in the chest. He paused, his blue eyes strained in concentration. I don't know how to explain it. It was the deepest mixture of horror and fear and grief and there were happy moments too. The golden ones he had, and those are hard to explain too. I can't carry his grief, not when I have mine.
"You shouldn't have to,"
Tattle said.
"You already carry more of that than most people, and it's not your responsibility to right his wrongs. Maybe dealing with him will help."
She gestured into the log. You mean bury him? Tattle shrugged. Link had left the log to distance himself from the dead man. It hurt too much to see him lying there. I watched him grow up, through his own eyes. I saw him in the mirror and thought of him as myself. The memories remained a needle in his forehead, impossible to avoid.
"It's not really your grief. Maybe burying him will help remind you of that."
Link considered, but the memories remained. The masked salesman, The dark sorcerer. Majora. At the mention of the Mask of Truth, he remembered the old witch lying in the corner of the shack, and he recalled her prophecy about a tree. When the mask salesman visited the Grey Witch, she told him that the piano was made from the wood of a magic tree. She said it was the center of all light magic in the world, and that the clock tower doors were made from it too. He paused. Weapons, instruments, and tools across generations have used its spark. Tattle finally abandoned her blade of grass.
Is this something you've heard about before?
I've seen the tree. In a dream. Recently. He struggled to reconcile the memories of the other man's with his own. In Great Bay, when I let the moon fall so I could save you, all of those boulders encased me and I got knocked out, but before I woke up I dreamed about a tree. He stopped, trying to visualize it again. It was all by itself, in a field of grass. It felt so peaceful. The sky was beautiful and I thought I saw Zelda there. Tattle listened carefully.
Like you saw her near the edge of Termina?
No, it was different, he said, a faint smile on his face. It was amazing. I didn't want to leave, but I knew I had to. It didn't last very long, and then I woke up under all the rocks. According to the Grey Witch, only one person has been to the tree physically, but it presents itself to people in dreams. The wood will come with you if you take some in the dream, even after you wake up.
So, people are pulling magical tree bark out of their minds while they're sleeping, all because a tree is talking to them?
I guess so.
Oh, that's so stupid.
Tattle frowned.
Too bad you didn't immediately run up to it and strip away its bark. Or are people only allowed to take away small shards?
I don't know.
I bet the magical dream tree doesn't want to be completely naked. How do you use tree bark as a weapon anyways? We just fling it at monsters and it explodes? Or maybe it's like holy water and it burns evil people on contact?
Link laughed. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, because trees visiting people in dreams isn't.
As the hero looked at her, a memory of Navi flashed across his mind. Only it's not my memory. His smile faded. The story of a fairy companion was a familiar one, though he'd never thought of Navi the way the masked salesman had. Or Tattle. He honestly never gave the concept of loving other humanoids much thought, though he remembered hearing a priest in Hyrule Castle's town square condemn love with a fish woman. He and Navi had deemed the holy man spiteful. He recalled watching himself hold Zelda's hand, standing atop the platform while the Hero of Time's celebration took place. That moment was one of the happiest of my life, he thought, though it had been strange to view from another's perspective. Unbeknownst to him, a man in the crowd had been staring Navi down. I never could have imagined the true reason she left me at the Temple of Time, the boy thought. The masked salesman had intended Link never to discover the truth, but ultimately he had, just in a very roundabout way. She didn't abandon me, at least not by choice. The truth eased her loss some, but the memories of her brutal murder would remain at the forefront. Link exited his thoughts to see Tattle looking at him sadly. He really, really believed you were Navi, the boy said, even though he didn't want to. Tattle averted her eyes, thinking long and hard before speaking.
And what do you think?
She paused.
I tried to bring her up that night we were on Romani's ranch before the ghosts attacked.
Link remembered.
What was Navi like?
She'd asked. He hadn't been very understanding, and thankfully, the mysterious phantoms had interrupted them. I don't know, Link said. I don't think of you as Navi. You're my companion, like she was, but you're a different fairy. I had my time with Navi. I accepted you as someone else long ago. A smile flickered across Tattle's face. She let his answer wash over her, the pressure of living up to an impossible standard relieved.
It's the only logical answer anyways. We don't share the same name. Anju is Anju in Termina and Hyrule, right? Was the mask salesman's father?
Roland. Link recalled throwing him to the ground and sending him back to Termina. He remembered the tale Anju had told him while recovering in bed, too. When the old man came, my mother says it was a day like any other. He stumbled out from under the tower in the middle of the day. His hair was long and white, and his face was more wrinkled than any of our elders. And he died right there in South Clocktown, only a few seconds after he came in. Yet another mystery solved, Link thought. The masked salesman's past had been full of answers. Yes, Link said eventually. His name was Roland in Termina and Hyrule.
Then it stands to reason my name would be Navi if I was her.
Link wasn't sure. Most of the stuff the masked salesman read about Termina called its magic manipulative. The people in this realm, their pasts change, their lives change, and so many other things. A name wouldn't be that much further of a stretch. The masked salesman clung to her when he'd lost everything else. His last thought was looking at you and remembering the night he met Navi. Teta looked away again, clearly disheartened. Link wondered if he should be this honest, or if he should keep the masked salesman's more emotionally intimate thoughts to himself. But I can't, the hero thought. I can't keep any more grief trapped inside. Especially when it wasn't even his own.
I think we should get going,
Tettle said eventually. Her gaze had turned to Clocktown's stone walls, standing solitary in the night. The tower's spotlight occasionally cut over their heads as it turned slowly to hover over Termina.
Dawn can't be that much further.
Link spotted the moon perched even higher, though not by much. Clouds swirled around it, clinging to its eyes and gritted teeth like mist. There was only a little over 24 hours left in this cycle. Link stood and stretched. The rain had soaked into his bones, but thankfully, no more fell from the sky. Link and Tattle walked to the mouth of the log. Epona buzzed her lips in greeting, even as two corpses lay behind her. One was a small girl, her dress stained red as she rested on her side. Near the opposite wall, the masked salesman lay flatly on his back. They'd closed his eyes, and his hands were clasped on his chest. His ginger hair was stark against his pale forehead. Link remembered running through the fields with a mask, seeing his father's smile framed by a sunset. He saw the old man cowering in the corner, begging to be taken back. Link tore his eyes away from the body and stepped out of the log again. I can't look at him, he thought, but he couldn't leave him there like that either. Tettle is right.
Link?
I'm fine, he said. I think I know where to take him. But first we have to go to Clocktown and make sure... He paused. Everything's okay. The masked salesman's past had answered almost everything, but the mayor's death remained an unknown. Clearly, the Dark Sorcerer had never been involved, which left only the Skull Kid or an unknown adversary.
I doubt the guards will let us in now,
Tattle said. Then we'll need help. Link entered the log again, doing his best not to look at the masked salesman's face as he went to a specific pocket on his robes. He withdrew the stone mask, and even though he'd never held it before with his own hands, its face of crude rock was intimately familiar now. Despite its appearance, the mask was light and wooden. The boy grabbed the rest of his equipment too, securing his scabbard, shield, and bag. Epona neighed as he made to leave. I'll be right back, girl, Link said, petting her nose. Just stay here. His horse begrudgingly agreed. Link and Tattle departed for the southern gate, stone mask at the ready. The walk was short, and as they ascended the staircase, a horrible smell greeted them. Link's heart sank in horror as the platform came into view. The guard was dead. His skin was charred and black, and his armor had been partially liquefied, too. The corpse lay strewn about on the steps, a twisted, fried wreck now covered in rainwater.
What is going on here?
Tattle exclaimed.
A burnt dead guard! A stabbed... dead girl in the log, and the mayor and his wife ripped to pieces in Clocktown. It has to be the Skull Kid.
Why would the Skull Kid do any of that? Link asked. His plans are bigger than Clocktown. It doesn't make sense for him to kill the mayor and his wife, one guard, and one little girl, only to leave.
And the Skull Kid only does things that make sense,
the fairy said sarcastically. Link dismissed her comment, walking closer to the town gate. Nobody moved to stop them. We were turned away from the western gate, the boy thought, and assumed we'd be turned away from this one too. He's been dead a while, Link said. We could have brought the masked salesman to Clocktown after all.
It wouldn't have mattered,
Tuttle said.
He was going to die no matter where we brought him. If Clocktown really is in a panic, bringing another dying man would have made things worse for everyone. At least the log was peaceful and outside.
Let's just go inside. You should get in the bag so we'll both be invisible. Tattle obeyed.
I hope being invisible is better than mask nothingness. I don't ever want to go back there.
This time will be better. He placed the mask over his face, but felt nothing. He'd find out if it worked soon enough. Immediately, they spotted a guard on the gate's other side, but he did not notice the boy or fairy. Or his comrade that died an agonizing death on the other side. Link thought bitterly. Blessedly, the mask appeared to work, especially considering there were far more people than normal in the plaza. Some villagers sprinted frantically to unknown destinations, and others lingered in groups huddled around possessions at their stalls. The surplus of guards were either heatedly engaged with townsfolk or keeping a hawk's eye on those who passed through. The wooden construction in the plaza's center had been abandoned. It was usually finished by the second night. The tension was palpable in the frenzied chatter of the crowd. Link kept his bag close as he peered through the mask's thin slits. Nobody saw him. He looked up to the clock tower's awe-inspiring face, which spun forever onward. A confrontation off to his right caught his attention. "You don't have the right!" a man shouted, dressed in a simple jerkin and looking rather haggard. Still, he puffed his chest out as he confronted a guard. "You can't keep us trapped in here like farm animals! That moon's not getting any further away!" "Stand down, citizen," the resolute guard said, "or you'll join the others and share the same cell." Across from them, another man carried a baby and pleaded with a different guard. "Please," he said. "I didn't murder nobody. I have a baby. How could I murder somebody when I have a baby?" Other confrontations rang through the air, though it was hard to pay close attention to any of the shouting. "Who's in charge here?" "Are you sure the mayor's really dead? Was it Cafe?" "Captain Bison is in charge until we can hold another election." Link walked to East Clocktown's staircase and Tattle watched carefully from a fold in the bag's lip.
"Where are we going?"
she whispered. "To see what happened for ourselves," he said. The East Clocktown Square was relatively empty, except near the eastern gate. Another crowd had gathered there, venting similar frustrations. Link and Tattle passed carefully, still invisible beneath the torchlight. Their shadows captured the attention of only one villager, but he quickly shook away the flicker of darkness as an illusion. Soon they reached the staircase and passed on to East Clocktown's second story. The sewers remained at their right, and the mayor's residence was across from them. The short, squat building was guarded as if the king of Hyrule himself was paying a visit. The front door was open, and light spilled out into the dark morning. Link walked carefully that way, hoping they weren't on the lookout for magic. If the murders had been as gruesome as described, they might be wary of invisible sorcerers. "I think Bison's going to drop the hold," one guard said, looking off grimly as they talked. "So I wouldn't worry about it. There's so much going on anyways." "Well, he better drop the hold," the other guard replied. "With how much he was talking about an evacuation, it's going to fall, so I'm all for it. It won't matter who the murderer is if we're all as flat as a pancake by the carnival." Link slipped between the armored men and stopped at the doorway. "I'll leave another shadow," he thought. He'd have to do it quickly, so they thought it was a guard passing in front of the doorway. Link stepped into the hall on the other side, and his boots were quiet on the carpet. He saw the familiar front desk at the hall's end, flanked by two doors. Guards lined the walls every step of the way. He'd been here only once as a cursed Deku scrub. A young lady had been standing behind it at the time, teasing him for being so small. That was a lifetime ago. Back then, death was not the forever companion it had become. a hardened gem in his lungs that pained him with each breath. He pushed those thoughts away. When he reached the door, Link looked around to make sure no one was paying attention. They're going to hear the door open regardless. Link would have to do it swiftly. The boy turned the knob and pushed the door open ever so slightly. The nearest guard turned immediately at the first creak. Link froze. The door was only open a sliver. Harren, did you see that? Link tensed, sliding through the crack before they could reach him. No, what? The door. It opened. Link stepped onto the other side, but that was all he could do before his senses were overwhelmed. Tattles clearly were too. She abandoned caution and flew from the bag to see for herself. They both stood there for a time, stunned into silence. Link, she said, her voice trembling. She could say no more. The mayor and his wife had not been murdered. They had been savagely torn to pieces. Link and Tattle remained rooted to the spot, eyes hardly able to take in the gore. The walls, the floor, even the ceiling. The victims could have been anyone. There was no recognizing them. The room smelled of rotten flesh, and it was decorated with it as well. Who's there? Link turned around and found the guard Harren at the door. Thankfully, the hero was invisible. But Tattle was not. His fairy screamed, flying into Link's bag instinctively. From Harren's perspective, she had simply vanished. The guard opened the door all the way, stepping into the room and looking around for her. Link ran out before he was found, alerting everyone with his thundering footsteps. The boy was back into the early morning before anyone caught him. He passed down the staircase between the guards and stood behind the nearest building. Link stood there panting, closing his eyes as he waited and listened. He heard some of the guards outside being called in, searching for the fairy. Link relaxed when he realized their attention was elsewhere. Tattle flew out to speak with him. Link, she said, her voice horror-stricken. Did you see that? It was something I've seen before, Link said, removing the stone mask and putting it in his bag. They looked exactly like the fox-faced man did after the masked salesman killed him. Tattle's eyes widened. That means it was done by whoever found the redead mask. By a shadow? Tattle asked. How is that possible? How could someone find it, figure out what it does, and be cruel enough to start killing with it in just 2 days? She stopped, narrowing her eyes as she tried to puzzle out the mystery. But it doesn't matter, right? The Skull Kid and you are the only ones who travel back in time. As soon as we play the song, whoever it is will lose the mask. Unless it's like you said in Great Bay Temple, and we happen to play the song in a spot where he or she can find it again. I was just joking about that. I didn't think... She trailed off, stammering. That was so horrifying. I can't even imagine. It'll be fine, Link said. We'll play the Song of Time, and it won't have ever happened. But we still have to find the redead mask. We have to destroy it. Yes, the boy said, but one step at a time. First, let's erase these murders from history. We should ask Anju about it first, Tattle said. Remember? The mask salesman left it with her. Maybe she knows who took it. She gulped. Unless she used it, and our innkeeper is actually a feral madwoman that's been dying to give cannibalism a try. Link balked. Jokes? Now? I'm sorry. You're right. Let's go talk to her. But I won't say I told you so if we find her munching on an arm. That'd be just our luck. They crossed only a short distance to reach the inn, only passing one villager. He gave them a passing glance, since they were now visible, but didn't think anything suspicious of them. Tattle's about to be prime suspect number 1, the boy reflected. We'll have to start hiding her soon. Link knocked on the door to the Stockpot Inn. It was locked. It's not open yet, he said. Well, she'll open it for us. Not if she doesn't remember us. We haven't spoken to her yet this cycle. Tattle scoffed. Well, we can't just wait around until... Can I help you? Link and Tattle turned to find the woman they were looking for. Her familiar short red hair and tall figure greeted them. She had an umbrella in hand, and her eyes regarded the boy and fairy suspiciously. Link wondered how much of their conversation she'd heard. Hi. Link said awkwardly. "It's 4 a.m, she said, her tone slightly on the offensive. The boy turned to tattle, but she simply bobbed in place, offering no assistance. "We wanted to speak to you." "Do I know you?" Anju closed the umbrella as she stepped toward the door. "No. Well, not really. We think you might have something of ours." "You seem like you're in a hurry," Anju said, taking out her keys. She'd clearly decided they were not a threat. "We are. It's important." Link paused as the innkeeper opened the front door. "It's a mask with a face of a redead." "A redead?" "It's gray and its face looks all decayed." The boy grasped for details, but his hopes steadily declined. "Its eyes are really dark. The slits cut out for the eyes are hidden well." "I don't have anything like that, and I don't know why I would." Anju stepped through the door, making it plain she didn't want them to follow her. She made to close it, but stopped just before she did. "I'm sorry. Things have been really strange lately, and I have a lot to think about. I'm sorry." She closed the door. Link and Tattle were left standing alone in the plaza.
"Maybe it was taken from her in a different cycle,"
the fairy said. "Then that would mean whoever had the mask has already had it more than once." Tattle chose her next words carefully.
"You lived the mask salesman's whole life. Do you remember when he gave Anju the redead mask?"
Tattle doesn't want to ask about him, Link realized. Maybe she was afraid to upset Link, or she didn't want to learn any more, given how central she and Navi had played in his life. Once again, the mask salesman becomes a sore topic even in death. "I'll try to remember," Link said. He recalled the moment he stepped into the Stockpot Inn, still limping from his injuries with his hood drawn. "But when was that?" Counting the days after, he realized it had been the last cycle, on the first night. He remembered talking to Anju as himself the night after that one, when he'd made his delivery with Cremia. She'd been looking at him very strangely that night. "Because a package intended for me had been stolen." "You're right," Link said. "The redead mask was stolen last cycle."
"And was used to murder the mayor in this one?"
Link looked away gravely. "How is that possible?" Maybe it was as they'd predicted. The song had simply been played in a spot where the thief and murderer had found it again the next cycle. Or maybe this thief and this murderer are two different people. Perhaps it was something else entirely.
"Link, let's just go back to the original plan,"
she said. "What? Just leaving the redead mask out there?"
"We won't just be leaving it out there. We'll be stealing it from whoever has it now, assuming that person is a shadow."
"And hoping that they don't find it again in the next cycle? Those are two very big assumptions."
"But we have bigger problems to worry about."
Tattle directed Link's attention to the moon.
"If we don't stop that thing, then murderers, thieves, and heroes alike will all be dead. And we both know that the stakes aren't restricted to Termina."
She swallowed, closing her eyes as she grappled with all the new horrors they'd learned.
"We can't let Majora's mask escape this place. That's our first priority. And we're so close. Closer than ever before. There's only one more giant left."
"But freeing the giants has only worked because we're taking these cycles seriously," Link said. "Not just as slates will wipe blank every time. We both know the choices we make in one cycle directly affect the others."
"Yes, but we can't make progress in a cycle that's already so messed up. The mayor is dead, and the culprit got away. We can't change that in this cycle."
Link scoffed, turning away from Tattle yet again.
"Link, I know you've never listened to me before when I try to convince you to let things go, but just trust me this time. Can we even fight someone who knows how to use the redead mask?"
Link continued staring off. "We can't just leave these people behind," he thought. But he realized Tattle was right. It might take them the rest of the cycle to track this person down, and by then, it would be too late to do anything about it. They needed more time. The boy turned back to his fairy. "You're right," he said. "We'll play the Song of Time." Miraculously, despite everything that had just happened, Tattle found her smile again.
I'm not used to hearing that, but I could certainly get used to it.
Don't hold your breath, Link said. He looked toward South Clocktown and his smile faded. There's still one more thing we have to do. The familiar sound of the wooden gears was soothing. Maybe that's because I've been down here as two people, Link thought. And to one of them, it was almost a home. Even though he and Tattle were beneath the platform, the pole still spun beside them, turned by the channel of water lapping onto the stone. Link used Armani's form to gently lay the limp, broken body of the masked salesman down. It was as wet on the ground as it was on the grass outside, though cooler and calmer in the clock tower's basement. Across the stream, the mysterious metal doorway sealed off the underground tunnels that Farron had laid waste to many generations ago. Link removed the Goron mask and stood in the clock tower's gentle rhythm of clanking and splashing. He watched the water's artificial channel run all the way to the far wall, where it passed through a grate into the unknown. The bars sealing off the underground side chamber were thin and far apart.
Are you sure the water will carry him away someplace else?
Tattle asked. I don't know, Link said. Logic dictated that it should be a circular system, but there were no visible mechanisms to power the flowing water. Most likely, whatever lay beyond that grate was not meant for the living, and anything that passed through would be gone forever. The clock tower seemed to keep as many secrets as the dead man that lay before them. Not too many hours ago, the quarantine on Clocktown had been lifted. He'd taken that time to bury the young girl in Termina Field, and then he turned into a Goron to carry the other body. While he'd received many curious glances, Darmani had been permitted to carry the corpse into the clock tower. But it doesn't matter. I'll be leaving all these villagers behind, and there will be new versions of them waiting in the new cycle. The same, however, would be untrue for the man lying at his feet. The masked salesman's eyes were still closed, and his face was pale and relaxed. His arms now lay at his sides, the dark robes still soaked with water and blood. A golden ring wrapped around one finger, red and blue gems sparkling. The ring he killed and lost so much for. It felt only right that it would leave this world with him. You were right, I think, Link said to Tattle. Each word felt heavy, laced with memories of that beautiful village that had existed long ago. We were more alike than I thought. Tattle took a moment to find her own words.
No matter how many evil things he did, there was always a person buried in there. It makes me wonder what the masked salesman might have learned if he'd used the mask of truth on the fox-faced man.
Link drew his lips into a thin line. Majora is my fox-faced man, he thought. It was true. That cruel rogue had taken as much from the masked salesman as the sorcerer had Link. Except the masked salesman changed his mind at the very end. That made him think about the boat the Gray Sparrow had been building, to cross the sea and find redemption of his own. Link swallowed. He wasn't a perfect man, but he was a man, hiding behind all those masks. He remembered the stone table and the blood smeared on its surface. He gave more than just a word to that demon. I wonder if part of him is in Majora's mask, too. Link knelt beside the masked salesman. The wet stone was cold on his knees. I forgive you, he said. The boy placed him in the water, and the stream calmly accepted him. Link stood tall with his fairy as they watched him float slowly away. The gears, the clock face, and the dark current continued their never-ending song. Their unspoken promise was an echo of the dead man's music, a dirge that could heal pain. The waterway carried all that remained, and then the masked salesman slipped through the grate and was gone.